Have you ever noticed how the human brain, this 1.3 kilogram masterpiece capable of building rockets, writing symphonies, and inventing cryptocurrency, suddenly forgets how pants work the moment it gets aroused? Like that guy who once texted his ex you up while sitting next to his current girlfriend. Or the girl who got one spicy compliment and immediately ordered a 40-euro taxi she absolutely couldn't afford, only to realize halfway there that she hadn't even asked for the address. Or, more serious, responsible people who suddenly decide that safe sex doesn't matter that much because the moment feels too hot and their brains have temporarily left the building. Neuroscientists call it reduced prefrontal activity. The rest of us call it, what was I thinking? Because, well, you weren't. Arousal doesn't just make people do stupid things. It literally hijacks your brain's control room. You're left with a hyperactive reward system, a silenced logic center, and a full-body committee yelling yes before your neurons even vote. So today, we're going to unpack why your brain, the most advanced piece of biological tech on the planet, short-circuits the moment things get exciting. Because when lust takes the wheel, rational thought gets stuffed in the trunk. The human brain is an engineering miracle that can launch rockets, compose symphonies, and still forgets how to type a normal sentence the moment someone attractive texts back. The instant pleasure surges, clarity evaporates. Why? Because arousal quite literally reallocates neural resources. The dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for working memory and self-control, starts losing power, while the ventral striatum and nucleus accumbens light up like a disco ball. It's a neurological coup d'etat. Top-down executive control gives way to bottom-up reward circuitry. In cognitive science terms, this is a shift from model-based to model-free behavior. Reason hands the steering wheel to habit. That's why attention narrows, working memory drops, and inhibition collapses. Or, as every person who's ever texted the wrong you up knows, the bandwidth of logic just isn't there. Yet total surrender is inevitable. Psychologists distinguish between flow, a balanced arousal that keeps the prefrontal cortex online, and high effective arousal, the all-consuming kind that swamps reasoning. Trained musicians, meditators, and even certain sex therapists can cultivate what's called metacognitive awareness, feeling pleasure while still observing it. For the rest of us, though, lust sits like a software update that deletes the "Are you sure?" button. From an evolutionary point of view, that makes perfect sense. The brain's main job isn't philosophy. It's reward optimization. Dopamine and norepinephrine surge when potential payoffs appear, tilting the calculus toward immediate gratification. As neurobiologist Robert Sapolsky notes, emotion and reward circuits often shape rationality more than they follow it. Pleasure evolved to motivate survival behaviors, eating, mating, bonding. The fact that it fogs reason is a side effect, not a design flaw. Plato, with his image of the charioteer tugging against wild horses of desire, was describing that exact inner physics 2,400 years before we had fMRI machines. To understand what happens during arousal, imagine the brain's architecture as an archaeological dig. At the bottom, from the early days of our evolutionary history, the reptilian complex, the brainstem, handling heartbeat and basic survival. Above that lies the limbic system, home to the amygdala and hippocampus, orchestrating emotion and memory. Add the basal ganglia and ventral striatum, and you get reward prediction and habit. The newest layer, the neocortex, and especially the prefrontal cortex, PFC, performs planning and inhibition. This structure is a direct consequence of evolution, when new brain areas were formed with new environmental conditions and development stages. During arousal, that hierarchy collapses southward. Dopamine floods the ventral striatum, adrenaline sharpens sensory salience, and the amygdala flags everything as emotionally urgent. Functional imaging studies show a predictable pattern. Nucleus accumbens up, dorsolateral PFC down. The brain trades spreadsheets for fireworks. Dopamine is the chemical hero and villain of the story. Acting on D1 and D2 receptors, it follows an inverted U-curve. Moderate levels enhance focus. Excessive spikes scramble the signal. When reward prediction errors fire too rapidly, the PFC's gatekeeping falters. Think of it as the office interns suddenly managing the stock market ticker. Chaos ensues. Can lust actually switch off higher reasoning? Not quite. It dampens connectivity. Under high catecholamine levels, the microcircuits of the PFC lose coherence while the amygdala and striatum seize control. Neurologists call this transient state functional hypofrontality. In other words, your frontal lobes take a short coffee break while your limbic system shouts. Do it. Biologically, there's logic in this lunacy. When a rival or opportunity appears, speed beats precision. Individuals who hesitated lost mates or meals. Those who acted fast left descendants. Hormones reinforce the system. Testosterone nudges risk and dominance. Oxytocin enhances trust and bonding, but can fuel in-group favoritism. Adrenaline pumps urgency, while shrinking deliberation. The mix decides whether you write poetry or regretful DMs. Evolution didn't want us to think less. It selected for nervous systems that acted when it mattered. Sexual opportunities are fleeting, and reflection takes time. Experiments from the University of Kent show that men exposed to sexual stimuli display stronger short-term mating preferences, even when already in long-term relationships. The machinery hasn't read the memo about commitment. Pleasure acts as a behavioral accelerator, compressing deliberation. When dopamine spikes, the cost-benefit spreadsheet is replaced by one bold headline: "Go now." That mechanism saved our ancestors but misfires in today's environment, where infinite digital cues mimic ancestral triggers without the payoff. Evolution built a reflex. Instagram built a business model. Humans aren't alone in this cognitive surrender. Male songbirds risk predators to impress females, and certain primates engage in aggressive displays that have survival odds. The mental fog is a uniquely human flaw. It's a cross-species adaptive bias toward action. In the Pleistocene, that fog optimized gene flow. In the age of smartphones, it mainly optimizes embarrassment. What was once an elegant survival shortcut now feels like a cognitive trap disguised as lust. Arousal spotlights the eternal duel between reason and desire, the reflective self versus the impulsive body. Contemporary neuroscience largely sides with compromise. As Damasio argues, emotion isn't an obstacle to reason but its foundation. Still, when affect overwhelms, it can hijack agency. Legal scholars and ethicists then face uncomfortable questions. If neurochemistry dulls control, where does responsibility end? Plato's charioteer allegory anticipates our modern dopamine storm. The charioteer, representing rational control, fights two horses, spiritedness and appetite. Swap parchment for pet scans, and those horses become a limbic and reward circuits, straining against the prefrontal reins. The metaphor survives because it's accurate. Every decision is a tug-of-war between cortical oversight and subcortical demand. So, who's truly in charge when arousal hits? Control isn't binary, it's graded. The prefrontal cortex doesn't vanish. It merely whispers against a shouting crowd. Philosophers call this diminished agency. Responsibility then isn't erased but contextual. Could you have installed guardrails before the hormones flooded the system? And can pleasure be pure if it requires losing consciousness? Two traditions argue opposite sides. The hedonist says yes, ecstatic surrender is the purest pleasure. The reflectivist counters that awareness deepens delight. Interestingly, neuroscience backs both. The brain has hedonic hotspots, ventral pallidum, orbitofrontal cortex, that light up during unreflective bliss, and separate PFC networks active in mindful savoring. Perhaps the highest pleasure is effusion, feeling fully while knowing fully. Anecdotes in the digital age prove how fragile that balance is. The viral stories of people accidentally sending intimate photos to family group chats aren't just comedy. They're case studies in PFC inhibition failure. Modern culture has a strange relationship with pleasure. We sell it, shame it, regulate it, and then sell it again in prettier packaging. On one side, pleasure is marketed as liberation, a lifestyle of you deserve this. On the other, it's policed as a potential moral or social hazard. Sociologists like Herbert Marcuse and Theodore Adorno already call this the dialectic of hedonism. Capitalism needs you to crave, but society needs you to behave. They trace this ambivalence back to the Protestant work ethic and Victorian repression, colliding now with consumer capitalism's mandate to stimulate. The result is a civilization that sells liberation while policing indulgence. Three forces drive this contradiction. Economics, because consumer societies require constant stimulation to sustain demand. Norms, because religions and laws must curb excess to preserve order. And performance, because an elite or influencer culture, pleasure itself becomes performance. Curated hedonism for clout. This cultural schizophrenia is functional. Glorification sells products, while fear sells discipline. Both keep the system humming. As media theorist Tristan Harris argued, the same culture that condemns distraction literally industrialized it, turning attention into a commodity. The attention economy is less about your freedom and more about dopamine extraction. So how do industries weaponize arousal to bypass thinking? Through the neuroscience of compulsion. Variable reward schedules, the same logic that powers slot machines, drive social media feeds and porn platforms alike. Each notification, thumbnail, or swipe delivers uncertain rewards, generating phasic dopamine microbursts that bypass reflective thought by overriding your prefrontal cortex, the seat of control. Persuasive design, infinite scroll, and frictionless yes buttons all erode the micro moments of reflection that could save you from your next regret. Pornography takes this even further. Rapid, high-intensity stimuli condition the reward system to expect novelty at impossible speeds. Brain imaging studies show that frequent high arousal exposure shifts baseline dopamine sensitivity, similar to behavioral addiction patterns. In short, the attention economy isn't just monetizing attention. It's industrializing desire itself. Where factories once processed coal, platforms now process human attention. Every second you spend entranced is data monetized. Neuromarketing studies reveal next to reduce PFC activation a heightened limbic response when consumers view erotic or emotionally charged imagery, proof that seduction sells because it literally dampens critical thinking. Herbert Simon predicted this in the 1970s when he wrote that a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. Today's algorithms don't just compete for your mind, they colonize it. But are there cultures that handle pleasure more gracefully? Evidence suggests yes. In Mediterranean societies, for instance, ritualized pleasure, the slow meal, the structured festival, provides boundaries that keep indulgence social rather than compulsive. Similarly, mindfulness-based cultures teach metacognitive distance from desire, turning a physiological rush into an object of awareness. The result, pleasure integrated with consciousness, not in opposition to it. Perhaps that's the real measure of cultural maturity. Not how much pleasure you allow, but how intelligently you metabolize it. Why do we text people we shouldn't when we're aroused? Because biology turns that space into a pinhole. When arousal spikes, attention narrows to whatever is reward relevant. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for working memory and long-term planning, and in particular part of it, the orbitofrontal cortex, which evaluates future consequences and is situated right above the eyes. Both go temporarily offline, replaced by the limbic system screaming now. The result? Tunnel vision, poor impulse inhibition, and a flood of what was I thinking the next morning? Classic psychology proved this decades ago. In the Dutton and Aaron suspension bridge experiment in 1974, men misinterpret the adrenaline from fear as sexual attraction to an interviewer. Today, the bridge is your smartphone, and the danger is social rather than physical. The combination of phasic dopamine spikes and a 24/7 communication channel makes impulsive messages almost inevitable. Whole news cycles are built on these moments. People accidentally sending explicit photos to work group chats, celebrities caught in their own DMs. Neuroscience explains it simply. The prefrontal cortex that says don't is chemically outgunned by the limbic system that says do it, it'll be fun. Even intelligence isn't much protection. Under temptation, the smartest brain becomes metabolically inefficient. Elevated dopamine and norepinephrine degrade the PFC's signal-to-noise ratio, making logical thought harder to sustain. As neuroendocrinologist Robert Sapolsky puts it, you can't be thoughtful when your brain thinks it's in a mating emergency. Can mindfulness keep the PFC online during desire? To a degree, yes. Meta-analyses show that regular mindfulness training strengthens dorsolateral prefrontal and anterior cingulate networks, improving impulse control. Practitioners develop the ability to notice arousal without identifying with it, a neural version of look but don't leap. Techniques like urge surfing, riding out impulses like waves, can reduce relapse behaviors across domains from addiction to overeating. Interestingly, not all arousal is the enemy of thought. Flow states, as defined by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, represent a kind of productive arousal, high focus, low self-consciousness, and deep task absorption. Neuroimaging shows that during flow, the PFC doesn't shut down chaotically. It synchronizes efficiently with task-relevant networks. Dysfunctional hypofrontality is adaptive, not impulsive. It's the difference between losing control and losing distraction. Can pleasure become intelligent? Yes, if we learn to stay awake inside it. Awareness transforms raw sensation into insight. Metacognitive awareness, the ability to recognize your own mental state, activates neural circuits for reappraisal and delay. Studies in mindfulness-based self-regulation show measurable gains in impulse inhibition with medium effect sizes. Cohen's d is almost equal to minus 0.5. Beyond awareness, choice architecture helps, designing your environment to favor long-term intentions. No alcohol around certain people. Message drafts that require a 24-hour delay. Apps that lock themselves during peak temptation windows. Self-control is easier when the battlefield is prearranged. Training the brain to enjoy without losing self-command is both ancient and cutting edge. Mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR, programs increase PFC upregulation and decrease impulsive responses. Techniques like urge surfing teach the nervous system to tolerate unfulfilled desire without collapsing into it. Even small frictions, a pause before tapping, a physical ritual like setting the phone down, Reintroduce agency into moments of compulsion. This is a psychological pivot from hedonic to eudaimonic pleasure, from raw gratification to reflective enjoyment. The philosopher would say, the highest pleasure isn't losing yourself, but knowing that you could and choosing not to. Neuroscience agrees. Studies link delayed gratification and reflective savoring to long-term well-being and reduced regret. Reversing the formula, using thought to deepen pleasure, is called savoring. It's the act of consciously extending or reappraising enjoyment. Rather than binging on sensation, savoring involves attention, gratitude, and reflection, a fusion of reward and awareness. Brain scans show that savoring keeps prefrontal engagement active even during pleasure, anchoring the experience and preventing the post-reward crash. In this light, pleasure isn't the enemy of intelligence. It's a test of it. The great irony of human civilization is that the same brain that invented reason, ethics, and art is still wired like a Pleistocene forager chasing berries and mates. Pleasure, once the mechanism that kept us alive, now threatens to drown the very rationality it created. The organ that built civilization is constantly at war with the impulses that built the organism. This is the paradox of the modern mind. To stay human in an environment engineered to exploit what makes us animal. When every platform, ad, and app competes to hijack your dopamine system, self-control becomes a radical act. It's not repression, it's resistance. As Tristan Harris argues, ethical technology isn't about less pleasure, but about restoring agency in how we experience it. So is self-control rebellion against biology or the next step of it? Both. Evolution selected for restraint too, the ability to delay gratification, cooperate, and plan. Over time, humanity outsourced that capacity into culture, rituals, calendars, contracts, meditation. Each is a prosthetic for the prefrontal cortex, a tool to stabilize the chaos of desire. The next phase of evolution might not be genetic, but cognitive, learning to coexist with our own dopamine systems without drowning in them. And what if thinking really does die in the moment pleasure? Is that death or transcendence? The answer depends on context. In creative flow or deep intimacy, the dissolution of self feels sacred. In addiction or impulsive collapse, it feels like erasure. Pleasure, it seems, is neither good nor bad. It's a force, neutral until directed by consciousness. The ethical challenge of the 21st century is not how to eliminate pleasure, but how to reclaim it intelligently. To build a civilization where desire doesn't destroy awareness, and awareness doesn't sterilize desire. Maybe that's the next enlightenment. Not thinking less, but feeling wisely. Think about it.